Hello, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Timesphere, a podcast where time is in the name, but we're very rarely timely. I'm one of your hosts, Cale. This is my buddy Scott. If you're new to the show, we kind of just use this as an excuse to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And today's topic is games, gaming news, sometimes esports discussions, sometimes Scott ranting about Chicago sports teams, always. But that will come later. Today we're going to be discussing what, Scott? What are we talking about today?
Well, the good news is that I won't have to send the package I had addressed to Hallis Hall. The Bears did do the right thing and hired Ben Johnson. But I think today we really want to talk about like game showcase events as a whole. We're gonna start off by talking about the Xbox Developer Direct from just this past week. And really just go back and forth about what we liked, not just from the event itself, but what we liked from those kind of events, and then parlay that into talking about state of play, Nintendo Directs, the Game Awards, Summer Game Fest, indie showcases, and just really get our feelings out about like how because these shows are really important to the gaming industry because obviously they're especially in today's day and age with like people's brains just being warped by Twitter and TikTok and like when can you get the next dopamine hit, knowing what's coming is almost more important to gamers now and to games and people who write about it in games media than what's going on. Then it's more what's happening in the future is more important and more interesting to people than what's going on right now. Because what's going on right now is always miserable. It's always people getting laid off. It's games not meeting expectations because developers don't know how to budget things properly or set reasonable expectations for themselves. And so it's better to look ahead because if you focus too much on the present, you'll just crater into a pit of despair. But there's not a lot to despair about from Xbox Developer Direct. So, should we give a little recap to people who maybe missed out on that one?
Yeah, well, we can do a little bit of a rundown on like what was actually announced because it does lead into the wider discussion of why these kind of directs are important. Adding on to what Scott said, we're going to be talking about the big three. So obviously, we're going to start with Xbox. We'll go into PlayStation and Nintendo after. Discuss the benefits of those. PlayStation will have the least amount to talk about, just because it's it's kind of the weirdest of the three when it comes to where it announces things and how it announces things. Um, and then we'll talk about a little bit about indie shows and kind of like the bigger stuff too at the end. But I do want to start by talking about like obviously Xbox is in like this really weird spot. I didn't pull up the sales numbers. I forgot to do that because I wanted to have those handy because they just did their earnings call. But I
Mm-hmm.
do remember that Xbox Game Pass had its like biggest like subscriber usage. Like Xbox Game Pass has hit new highs in terms of people using it. Xbox Cloud Streaming hit highs in
Mm-hmm.
terms of people using it last quarter. Uh, Indiana Jones hit like some crazy milestone with how many people were playing it, just because whether they bought it or they could use Game Pass as a metric. Um, there's all these different things that they're starting to record on that front, even though gaming revenue as a whole was down partially because the console side of Xbox continues
Yes.
to slide down. Like it is in such a distant third, even behind the Nintendo Switch, as the new Switch is about to come out later
hardware
this year.
sales hardware sales in general. I know that this all comes from the Circana report from last month
Mm.
or like earlier this month. Matt Piscatella did his reports and went on the rounds. He went on like Giant Bomb, places like that, and hardware sales are down. And which is a little bit of a sign for concern amongst the gaming industry. But I also think it's been so long since it's been like a new console generation. I feel like each year hardware sales are just going to drop anyway, as long as there's not any brand new consoles, because you know people already have a PS5 or an Xbox or a Switch or even a Switch OLED, and there really hasn't been anything. People and like we're past. I think we're for now. I mean, things could change because I know like a certain orange president might be like putting on tariffs that makes semiconductors or
Yep.
superconductors. What are they called?
Semiconductors,
Making those more expensive, which is going to drive up the cost of
all
games and
tech,
hardware,
literally all tech.
pretty much everything, anything technology related.
Phones,
But
laptops, PC components,
I
like
feel like we're
anything that runs on
past.
electricity.
I feel like we're past though the COVID like brought on like shortages and things like the PlayStation and like I remember PS4s or not PS4s PS5s were like impossible to get for a long time, Switches as well. And so now that we're past it, I feel like it makes sense for hardware to dip. But who were we originally talking about? Why'd I pull us into hardware sales? We were talking about
We were talking about Xbox
we were
being
talking about Games Pass. Yes, Games Pass. Games Pass. I'm already doing a bunch of Chris Collinsworth stuff. Like I'm doing the Pass Rush, but but it's Games Pass. There'll be more of those because my mouth don't work too good. But I think Game Pass is getting to that point where it's now becoming what Microsoft was promising it would be, where it just has so much stuff that eventually it's just going to slowly but surely bring everyone in. And I credit Xbox for sticking to it because, I mean, as we talked about, I think we talked about last episode, they pretty much had a point where they would either go all in with Xbox and Game Pass and acquiring studios, or they were just going to like take a big step back, and they went the other way, and hopefully it finally pays off. I know Indiana Jones was a good source of success for them, and
we'll kind of get the next wave of that pretty soon because we're getting Avowed this month or next month. By the time you hear this, it'll be February, but we're getting Avowed.
So yeah,
and a whole bunch of other stuff they're about to talk about within the first half of the year. So
that's what and so I guess that brings us into the developer direct that just came out, because a lot of those games were given release dates, and a lot of them are for the first half of 2025. So really giving us a sense of like what Xbox Game Pass fans can get over the next 5-6 months. And you mentioned Avowed, which was not present, and I get why, because it's already been like
it's already had the previews. They don't want to overshadow.
But I also just feel like a little thing at the beginning. Like,
see, that's
not Avowed's coming out next month.
These are though. That's what we're going to talk about the structure of these.
And so the structure of this, and we'll get into what was actually announced, but the structure of this show was long form. They talked about technically 5 games. They started off with the surprise announcement from the rumor was a legendary Japanese IP, and that's sure enough what this is. Ninja Gaiden coming back. We get Ninja Gaiden 4. They also, and this very much surprised me, not just that they announced it, but like who it resonated with. So they also announced Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, a remaster of the original Ninja Gaiden 2. And my girlfriend, who I would have never said in a million years would pick up a Ninja Gaiden game, started playing Ninja Gaiden 2 Black and is genuinely super enjoying it. That shocked me. I was like, "You're playing Ninja Gaiden?" Because she likes Dragon Age and Baldur's Gate, and she's been on a big indie game fix recently. She's looking forward to Avowed. Fantasy is her big thing. So like, a bloody hack and slash game very much surprised me as being one she enjoyed. But you know what? Good for her and good for them. They got a Ninja Gaiden fan that they probably did not expect they were gonna get. And I have Game Pass, so I might as well try it too. But this show was more, instead of the Game Awards, we'll talk about the Game Awards, where it's like world premiere, world premiere, trailer. And it's like, they're very like, they're trying to, because, it costs a lot of money to get time at the Game Awards. So, companies have to be stingy with the amount of, footage they're actually putting out there. These were very long, lengthy showcases of the game and the studio, and not just the game, but the studios themselves working on the game. So we saw that with the team making Ninja Gaiden. We saw that with the team making Clair Obscur, with Doom. So yeah, I mean that's what did you get a sense of, like, from a format standpoint? What did you think of the developer direct?
I like these kind of showcases just because I enjoy hearing the reasoning from the developers in terms of like how they do it. The Ninja Gaiden part, and we'll get into a little bit more of that here in a second, was a little much. I think they went a little too heavy on the Ninja Gaiden stuff just because that was the surprise. I think the placement of these games could have been a little better in terms of, I mean, it was only 4 games, so they don't have a lot of area to play with, but I think that some of the placement on like what these games kind of ran into, because it's like Ninja Gaiden, super high action, like bloody, like hardcore, action, and then you go in. We're going to talk about South of Midnight, and then you go into all right, I can't remember if it was South of Midnight and then Clear Obscure, or
I believe it was South of Midnight.
yeah, then
first,
Expedition
and
33,
then and then Clair Obscure, and then they ended with more
Yes,
violence
Doom.
with Doom: The Dark Ages.
Yeah, I think they could have timed it a little better in terms of what games were placed where, but I understand wanting to get the big hook out first and then lead into the big thing at the end.
Yeah.
I
think Doom. I think on this slate, I think Doom is the biggest game.
100%.
I think it's gonna. I think it's. I think it's. I don't think it's definitely going to do the best because we talked about this last week. I think I have really high expectations for Clair Obscure. I think it's
Doom is
going
gonna
to
lap it in sales. Like
I was gonna say like Doom is like there's a chance Clair Obscure could have like this big unexpected launch, but in terms of like safe bets, Doom is the clear number one.
Doom is gonna lap every game.
Doom
on
has a
list
really
by
high
a mile.
sales floor. People be like, I love Doom. I've always loved Doom. Doom is fun. And like, I want more Doom, and this is
Doom
more
is going to sell like probably 2 million copies within the first week. None of these other games on this list are going to sell more than one probably in the first week.
Or lead to how many Game Pass sign it. I don't know.
Yeah, like who knows?
I don't know how they translate
Game
that.
Pass, I'm so confident in Doom. I think Doom is going to sell 2 million copies, even if it doesn't get even with Game Pass, because it's also launching on PlayStation and PC.
Right.
So it's going to sell on those two platforms, and it's also going to sell on Xbox, including Game Pass stuff, which I wish we'd get more clarification for in stuff moving forward now that all these different first-party games are on that service, but we're never going to get like exact clarification on how many signups happen within Windows and stuff.
I would love to know how like what translates to success on Game Pass.
How many people signed up within the window of the release of Black Ops 6? How many people signed up within the window of Indiana Jones? Like those kind of things. We're never going to hear because that's important information that they want to keep to themselves.
Right.
Whether to protect the game from like looking like a flop or because that might show where the spikes are in terms of like traffic, so people can play on that as like their opponents can play on that. But back to like the structure of the direct, I like these because specifically in like the Doom section really resonated because we got to sit there and listen to the Doom people, like the developers over at id, talk about like, hey, why did we choose to go this direction with the movement? Why did we choose to go this direction with the freedom of like the semi-open world? We're going to use the term coined by Sonic Frontiers. It's open zone, where it's like not necessarily fully open world, but you're going to get to do a lot more, and you're going to get to kind of choose your own path and do these things in different orders than you might have been able to in other Doom games.
Hearing their just to continue on like what I like from the Doom section specifically, and hearing from the developers, hearing them explain their philosophy behind like the combat gameplay and what they want to do with each Doom. Like Doom 2016 was like your classic like run and gun. Run and gun, and then Doom Eternal you were just like zipping around all over the place with the dash and flying. They wanted to do speed, they wanted to do movement, that was the focus. And this it's like they're like you're a slower, like you can still move around pretty quickly, but you're more like a tank. It's more cerebral and visceral and more of like a callback.
Stand your ground. It was you're gonna stand your ground, you're gonna fight, like you're not gonna be
which is like the original Dooms. Which I think is really cool. A really cool blend of like new stuff and like they're of course completely absurd weapons that are going to be here. I still like just like it really gets my motor going watching the gun that chews up skulls and fires out skull fragments. I'm just like, that's so rad. Every time I see it, I'm like, this is so cool and just such a fun design. I thought it was really funny to go from the Clair Obscure developer. They're like, oh, we're here in France. We want to make a beautiful story. And then it's like, welcome to America. Welcome to Texas. We're making Doom. Just the tone shift and like the personality shift. The one thing that I thought was silly though was like the very end where they're all walking into the conference room together and everyone's sitting.
The weird
and
it's walking segment. Yeah.
Well, it's the two like founders of the lead guys walking together.
Two, and then they slowly started piling in after.
Two people versus two people having definitely a fake conversation, and then one really tall guy came in by himself, and he's like, and he didn't really. And you know what? I resonate with that guy. I'm 6'3", and there's a lot of times where I'm like, I feel like I'm just lumbering around and like not like I feel his pain as a tall person, a notoriously marginalized group, tall people. But um,
Yeah, I mean, it just
I yeah.
these conversations, this kind of direct is something that we used to get a lot more of, and used to
Mm,
this is like something like E3 era, like before all these like direct. This is like reminiscent of the E3 era. Now, obviously, it's not on a stage, and it's like not as staged in terms
mm-hmm,
of like what they're talking about, but uh, this is more of that era where you're getting direct feedback from multiple developers that worked on the game. You're hearing a little bit more about like the behind the scenes and how things came about and stuff that you don't really get anymore beyond like a couple of things, maybe at Summer Game Fest or here or there at a couple of these conferences. Uh, I'll quickly run through this. I don't want to spend too long just rehashing the games that they announced. But yeah, we got the surprise reveal of Ninja Gaiden 4. This is officially now the year of Ninja Gaiden coming back, where we're getting the indie developed uh, roguelite, 2D roguelite. Then we're getting Ninja Gaiden 4. It's going to launch in fall. This is the only game that's a fall window from this direct, by the way, or this presentation. All the other ones are going to be launching before May, or May or earlier. The real shocker here is not only is this Ninja Gaiden 4 developed by Team Ninja, it is co-developed by Platinum Games, and it is published directly by Xbox Game Studios.
mm-hmm,
So this is not I mean, Koei Tecmo is still involved, but they are not the sole publisher. This is
mm-hmm.
partially, in some way, funded by Xbox, and I can't remember what Phil Spencer said. He said this partnership had been basically in the works for like 6 years, or
Mm-hmm.
something even longer. So this is something that they're really working for, and they keep. I have one like pet peeve with Xbox about like how they keep talking about this is like they're always talking about how they want to serve their Japanese fans and like bring Japanese games over, and yet their one Japanese studio they shut down and then eventually sold to Crafton, uh, even though they did really great work. So
Yeah.
that irks me every time I hear Phil or someone talk about that whenever eventually they help publish or bring over a game to Game Pass that's Japanese developed. But this
Mm-hmm.
is super cool. And then we also got the surprise shadow drop of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, which is a sequel, a remake sequel.
Remaster. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a remaster,
Remake.
yeah, whatever you
Whatever.
call it.
Yeah.
It's more of a remaster than a remake because it plays very similar, if not exactly
Mm-hmm.
like the original, which is something I'll mention again here in a second. But it is a sequel remaster to Ninja Gaiden Black, which I think was in 2009. So, which is a remake of the original. So this is a sequel remaster bringing two into that same Black like timeline. This is also the one that most people kind of say is the best one out of that
Mm-hmm.
trilogy.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll be seeing a Black remaster of 3 because 3 is
I,
very divisive, and that there's a
I've
reason why we haven't
I've
seen Ninja Gaiden in a while.
I've heard 3 is divisive. Why was 3 so? I'm
It
not a big
is
Ninja Gaiden player. Why is
so
3 so divisive?
I have only played a little bit of. I played like a little bit of 2 because the Ninja Gaiden is not my thing either. At least this, I played a lot of like the 2D, but the 3D Ninja Gaidens, from 3 is just weird. It's just like weird layout, weird story, weird everything. I'd have to get like someone else to come in and describe that a little bit better, but I don't know if we're going to see a Black remaster of that anytime soon. Let's put it that way. But yeah, so that drops sometime in fall. We don't have a date for it. We'll probably see it at like Summer Game Fest. This is probably a Gamescom announcement if I had to guess. This is a good like solid title for that Gamescom opening night that Jeff hosts and puts together, where it's like it's a pretty big game, but it's not like the AAA like super huge title that whatever. So we'll probably get a date around Gamescom, so like August-ish. So it'll probably be like a late August, early September, somewhere along
Mm-hmm.
there, where it's going to do pretty well, I think. And I'm wondering when I wonder when the 2D game is going to drop, because that might actually be pushed to 2025 at this rate, unless they drop like summer-ish, which we could see Summer Game Fest. Who knows? Maybe they'll have a demo or something available, like Days of Play, which again we'll talk about later. But I do want to mention my buddy Will Borger. I can't remember if it's Borger or Borger. I can never pronounce it. But he did the review
Burger, I think you'll find.
for what?
Burger. Well,
I don't know if it's
old.
that. But one of my fighting game buddies and dude who does a bunch of freelance stuff across media. He did the review for Ninja Gaiden 2 Black over at IGN that just went live, I think today. And so I'm just going to read the excerpt from that, where he gave it an 8. And Nick called it a great game. Fewer enemies with more health may mean Ninja Gaiden 2 Black isn't quite the definitive version, but it's a definite and gorgeous improvement over its Sigma 2 release and still an excellent action game all around. He loves Ninja Gaiden. He loves the 3D Ninja Gaiden specifically. Loves this. He's been talking about it since it dropped. So if you're excited for that, go give it a go. Great to see Ninja Gaiden back. I'm really hoping this is like a good sign for Platinum after they've been losing. They've just been bleeding talent like constantly. Now, I will say, I think the person, I can't remember if it's the director or the producer of this Ninja Gaiden game has already left Platinum, which a lot of people were like, "Oh, is the game gonna be bad?" And I'm like, "No, that probably means the game is like done. That probably just means it's been done for a year and he's moving on to a new studio for a new project because a bunch of people have been leaving Platinum. A lot of people have been leaving Platinum, so there's cause for concern there. But we'll move on to well, I'm just gonna go in order of what it's got on this rundown here. So we're gonna talk about Claire Obscure. Oh no, South of Midnight is no, it is Claire Obscure. I can't.
It is Claire Obscure? Okay.
Yeah, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Wrong, yeah. April 24th release date. I believe it's $50, isn't it?
It is $50.
And it's also going to be Game Pass day one. We're not going to rehash everything we said last time about like why we're excited for this game. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, they showed a lot of stuff. They got this is the first time we've heard the devs really get to give like an in-depth talk about like the game and their inspiration. I wish we could have heard more about like the inspiration from different games.
Yeah,
that like inspired this, because clearly this is the first time we've seen the overworld, I'm pretty sure, so you can clearly see the inspiration. The battles are that more turn-based like Persona style with like the stylized menus and like how things play out, but the overworld is not you walking around. It's like old school Final Fantasy, like you're in like a mech or whatever that thing that you're riding around in is, going across an overworld.
It's like a big balloon animal or something.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's
weird,
very
but
weird.
Like yeah,
and it talks to you and then eats you or something. Whatever.
Yeah,
man. I don't know. It's weird, but it looks like you can clearly see the inspiration coming from like two different eras of JRPG, and I wonder, like, truly where they're picking and choosing where they take stuff from, obviously. But I would like to hear the developers talk a little bit more about their inspiration on like what inspired the battle system, what inspired like the overworld traversal. And I'm sure we'll get that more closer to the April 24th release date when they do like interviews and previews with like developer or with media and stuff. But yeah, that's super hype. I think this game specifically, this game and South of Midnight, which is the next one we'll talk about, specifically benefit a lot from these directs if people will watch, because you get to see a lot more of the game and hear about the methodology and all these other elements behind things to sell you on the games, more than just seeing gameplay and then wondering, oh, I wonder if that's going to be for me. So
yeah, I spoke already about that being very high on this game. I think is like I think in our predictions piece last week I said this was going to be a sleeper game of the year contender. I still believe that. You predict what's going to get me into turn-based RPG, so I look forward to that. Sorry, I won't be around to play as much Marvel Rivals if that does happen. But yeah, I this was a really good look at how they came up with some of these ideas and the creativity that they've been allowed there. Essentially, it shows that like Microsoft isn't really. So we talked about this a long time ago when Redfall flopped. We talked about there really not being Microsoft or Bethesda or ZeniMax, whoever. Someone never stepped in and said like, we need to fix this. This can't go out like this, and that never happened. And that's why we kind of got what we got with Redfall. And but still, I guess the point I'm trying to make is that we don't have that. Like, clearly they've been given the permission to sort of do whatever they want, and even though this is their first game, and as a studio, I believe, and
yeah, I'm really like this studio is an Xbox studio, so that like that through line doesn't really. I get what you're saying.
That's that's a good point. Yeah, they're not really being influenced by like Xbox or Microsoft at all. They're making the game they want to make. It's
that's exactly what they talked about. They talked about they're making a creative game that they want to make. They're telling the story that they want to tell. Which, by the way, gameplay and everything aside, I'm way more interested in the story than anything else. The story is
very cool, and
I'm super sold.
And I think like people wanting to make a game that they want to make is just always going to be a platform for success. It's always these games. It's like Baldur's Gate and like, I'm not thinking of Baldur's Gate. What's it's like we heard this at first from Naughty Dog when you're talking about Last of Us, because people are like, oh, is Sony pounding on the door asking him when are they going to make Last of Us 3, and the creator was like, well, no, we're going to make a game when we want to make a game that we feel there's a story we want to tell. And clearly the next story they want to tell is in space, which is why we're going to get
Heretic.
I keep want to call it Interstellar. That's not what it's called.
It's Interstellar, the Space Heretic or whatever.
Is it Interstellar?
I don't know if it's Interstellar. I mean, Intergalactic. I don't.
Intergalactic.
Intergalactic.
That's it.
The Heretic Prophet. That's what it is.
Yeah.
I just all these words bumbling in my head about it.
Because I mean, a big thing in the news recently has been some more layoffs at BioWare following Dragon Age not meeting expectation, and that's a clear example of there's a game that the publisher wanted them to make a live service multiplayer, whatever the fuck was going to be that original game. And they had to pretty much fight and claw, and the creator who just left after 18 years. Yeah, and the creator who just left
to drag that game out of development hell.
Had to like rescue it from being whatever the hell that was going to be, which I guarantee would also have been a big failure.
Yeah,
but you can see little bits and pieces like the faction system and things like that. That's like, oh yeah, this was. I can see how this was designed.
Conceptually, this was probably designed for a regular game, and then it was like, oh, well, we can use that for like a live service thing. And then the development happened, and so that stuff still got fleshed out. But then halfway through development or 4 years in development or whatever, they're like, we can't do that. It's going to flop. It doesn't sound good. It's not testing well or whatever. We need to pivot back to original. So then you have another 4 years of development where you have these cool systems that you had in place, but then you also now have to fit that into like a single player game, which is like, by all means, reviewed decently and like was received well enough, but it didn't hit the metrics that they wanted it to meet. And I'm sure that game was never going to hit the metrics EA wanted it to meet, because I'm sure EA had way more metrics for that game than it should have, knowing everything that's going into it. But then also the fact that like EAFC underperformed for the first time in forever.
Right.
Like all these other factors probably played into what happened now, and that stupid announcement where they're basically like, didn't say anything about the layoffs, and are talking about how they're trying to restructure the team to be more agile, and then the layoffs get announced like under the table, and we still don't even know the number of layoffs because they just don't want to say it, because they laid off a ton of like veteran people from that studio. So I mean,
bring it all back to the point that I was trying to make with Clear Obscure is that they're making the game that they want to make. There's no like rigid hand holding from Xbox, and I think both sides will hopefully be happy with the result. And I think as someone who's looking forward to this game, I think I'll be happy with the result.
Yeah, let's speed run through the last two, because South of Midnight, we've seen a little bit of it, and previews already went live ahead of time. Like, we've been seeing more of this game over the last like 4 or 5 months. Looks cool. It's not my cup of tea. I'll probably wait and hear what my friends who are going to review the game and what the general like feel for the game is. But it's cool. Another studio that is not known for making this kind of game. It's going to be $40. It's going to be a very affordable jump in. This game is going to be really cool. It's also going to be a really good Game Pass game.
Yeah.
Like, this is another game where it's like, oh, $40. Oh, it's probably going to be a lighter experience in terms of story. But guess what? This team that hasn't made like a game like this before, let them do that. Let them make this cool, weird game with like a cool and like niche. Like the story seems like it's going to be pretty cool, because it's based on like from what I've heard, the previews or the people talking about like talking to people at the previews, the devs talking to people at the previews, they were like, oh, well, do you have any books you recommend on this like mythology that they're pulling from like all this kind of mythology? And they're like, no, because we want it to be a surprise, and even we didn't use we used these mythology points as like a bouncing off point, but we put our own spin to it when we did our research, like this kind of cool stuff that makes this going to be a really cool experience for people who go in and play it blind. So I'm excited for this one. Another $40 price point, so it's going to be easy for people who don't have Game Pass to jump in. Like, it's not going to be a huge commitment, but also it's kind of like that Hi-Fi Rush experience. It's that like high quality, probably like this is probably like that what people would call AA. Like that these terms don't mean anything anymore. AAA means nothing. AA means nothing. Single A isn't even a thing. Yeah. Indie games don't even mean anything anymore when you're talking about them, because there's so many of them.
And Skull and Bones is quadruple A.
Yeah, that's the only one that matters. But no,
the standard.
Super cool. This is the perfect example of of a Game Pass game that is like going to get people to subscribe to Game Pass for a little bit to try it out, because that's what I use Game Pass for. When I subscribe to Game Pass for 3 months at a time or whatever, I play the game that I'm there for, and then I
Mm-hmm.
browse like the selection of games that I haven't played before, and then also the other Xbox or other partnered games, like the Clair Obscurs that Xbox brings in and gets on Game Pass, and I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go give that a try because it's just on Game Pass, and that's how I play those games. And then we already talked at length about Doom, but yeah, Doom is coming out May 15th, and this game is gonna rip. Like this game is gonna be a
Yeah.
huge hit. Game
Yep.
Pass, other consoles, and this is a great pivot point. I didn't pull any quotes from. Shout out to Danny Pena and Paris and the Gamertag Radio team who got to interview Phil Spencer for their like 20th anniversary. Shout out to them for their 20th anniversary too. Those guys are rock.
Mm-hmm.
Love Danny and Paris and them. But that Phil basically talked about like there's nothing off the table. Like we're really strategically planning out like what's got like Forza Horizon 5 just got announced today that it's going to
Yeah.
PlayStation this April.
That's
or this
huge.
spring at some point. Like Xbox is now going to end up being they're still going to compete with PlayStation, and the Xbox consoles aren't going anywhere. The Xbox as a concept aren't going anywhere, but the whole like this is an Xbox thing, we're going to see how far that goes. Because a lot of these games, if not all of these games, like South of Midnight, don't know if that's going to PlayStation. I don't think they mentioned it. It says, no. So in Doom, they say Xbox Series XS, Xbox app for Windows PC, Steam, PlayStation 5, and day one with Game Pass. South of Midnight does not say PlayStation. So some of these games are still going to be exclusive, if they're published, because Expedition
Yeah.
33 doesn't say PlayStation, even though that will also be launching on PlayStation, I assume. So the messaging might just be a little weird for some of those, but for the Xbox first party game, they're now saying, maybe not in their own showcase or in their own trailers, but in their blog copy, they're saying
Right.
PlayStation 5. So a lot of these games are just going to be day and date PlayStation, or like Indiana Jones, a little bit of delay because we still don't have a date for that. It's probably going to be like after Doom, I would assume, probably like
Yeah.
June-ish.
They want to
for
give
the-
time
the-
to their
Yeah,
give time to their.
It's going to be like PlayStation. It's going to be a little less than what PlayStation does with PC.
Mhm.
It's going to be like 6 months, 3 months, 6 months. To probably depends on the game. Because like Doom is coming day one, probably because that's more of a Bethesda thing, and they know the audience for that. But Xbox is going to become more of a third party thing. We're going to see. I think the biggest move that Xbox can make, the biggest power move they can make, if they think it's not going to tank their sales on Steam, put a Game Pass app on Steam, official Game Pass app on Steam. Let Xbox Game Pass be playable and usable, whether it be streaming or downloading games through Steam OS. Find a way to make that work, because then you open the door to letting people play that on all of the handhelds.
Mm-hmm.
On Steam Deck officially, on the Lenovo Legion Go through the new Steam OS that they're launching for it. Obviously, a lot of these run on Windows, so you can still do it, but they're not like. Find a way to do that, and you open doors. I don't think Game Pass will ever come to PlayStation. I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think that's something they'll do. But Switch, there's
If they do,
there's all the rumors about it, like that it was going to come to Switch 1. Like maybe Switch 2, that they finally pull the trigger because they don't view Nintendo as like their direct competition in the same way.
Right. I could
Like-
that'd be a little more likely than PlayStation.
Or-
I could see if they ever did it for PlayStation, they would have like
There's caveats. The issue
no,
is
I was saying
caveats.
for their marketing for it, they would show like they would do a slow available PlayStation, and then the thing pops up and says this is an Xbox.
That would be hilarious, and it would also make a lot of people really mad, and I don't think that would be allowed.
It'd be very funny.
But the only one I can see happening, like, I want it to happen for Steam because I would like Game Pass Ultimate on my Steam Deck. I could see it happening on Switch, but that's less likely by quite a bit. I don't see it happening on PlayStation because that's an ecosystem that is a direct competitor. But yeah, these to kind of bring home the point, Xbox is pivoting to third party, and this direct kind of is like the perfect way to showcase a lot of these games that. I mean, you didn't really need to showcase Doom. Like, Doom is still going to sell well. But guess what?
Right.
Now a lot of people are more sold on Doom.
Yeah.
But now a lot of people are sold on South of Midnight or Expedition
Clair Obscur,
33
yep.
or even, and now we know about Ninja Gaiden.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
it's a
that's-
cool way. It's a cool way to, like, go a little bit more in depth in a way that we don't get anymore. Because you don't get these at like all these other presentations, and we're about to pivot to talking about PlayStation, but you don't get that at like PlayStation showcases. They talk a little bit, but most of the time, whenever they talk about that kind of stuff, it's just like a little overview, and then the PlayStation execs come out and talk about like subscriptions or like PlayStation Plus or like the new hardware. That's the only time you ever see that like go in depth. So, now let's talk about PlayStation. So I have the rundown of the last PlayStation State of Play, which was
Mm-hmm.
September 2024. So important distinction here. There are State of Plays and there are PlayStation Showcases.
Mm-hmm.
State of Plays can be whatever. It can be PlayStation first party, it can be third party, it can be second party, it can be whatever. It can be hardware, anything. I think they had a PlayStation Showcase for the PlayStation 5 Pro. I think that's what they called that presentation. If you fact check me if you want, I don't really care. But there's a distinction between that, a State of Play, which can be pretty much anything, versus a PlayStation Showcase, which is almost exclusively first party / partnered directly with PlayStation kind of stuff. That's where you get like we're going to get like 6 game reveals within like
Mm-hmm.
30 minutes, and they're all going to be first party. I think
Yeah.
that's where we got God of War Ragnarok, like that kind of stuff. Like that's where they do their big stuff.
Yeah.
So this is a State of Play. So you still get some big. I'm just gonna do a quick rundown of like what we got from this State of Play, and what was like, what was full like. Then we'll talk about like what these mean. So we got Astrobot. Astrobot announcement of like new speedrun levels, 10 new special bots to rescue, just like a free DLC. We got the Ghost of Yote. This isn't in order, obviously. Ghost of Yote was the final announcement. We got the surprise announcement of the sequel to Ghost of Tsushima,
Mm-hmm.
which is scheduled to come out this year at some point. My guess would
Mm-hmm.
be probably in that like June to July timeframe, just like Ghost of Tsushima did. I think it launched July 20th, July 17th, something like that in 2020, or was it 2019?
I
Something
think
like
I
that.
think this year would be a little bit closer to the holiday. Not like I think
It could.
I genuinely think that Sucker Punch and PlayStation are not afraid of Grand Theft Auto. They're like this is a big game, but this is
Uh,
like
I think they're the only ones scared of Grand Theft Auto when it comes to this.
really.
Not this kind of game. I just think that they know that their audience is going to be playing. It's not the game that they're scared of. It's not their game that they're scared of being competition for GTA. It's their audience,
Hmm.
because their audience plays, because it's not going to be on PC. So people are going to be buying a PlayStation 5 to play GTA.
Yeah, that's a good because they don't
So
do PC releases.
if you put out a PlayStation 5 exclusive Sony first party game, regardless of how good it is, it could be
Yeah,
Last of Us 3,
yeah.
and
It just still
the market share
bigger
is going
games
to be
like this just
split.
feel like they should be closer to the holidays,
It
or like they
should.
usually it
I
should
just
be. But
think that they don't. I
this is
think
a
that
special year.
I think they care. I think they'll know before we do when
Mhm.
if GTA 6 is coming out this year, and then we will find out if GTA 6 is coming out this year based on when this game comes out. Because if this game drops in July,
Yeah,
then it was probably always scheduled to come out in
yeah.
July, and they want to avoid the fall-ish release of whatever big Nintendo stuff, whatever big Xbox thing, and whatever big third-party thing, whether that be
Mhm.
GTA 6 or whatever. So,
Yeah.
but Ghost of Yote was the big final announcement. We got the surprise announcement of Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. We got Lego Horizon Adventures getting its official release date, I believe, is when this got announced. And then this was, this was the little showcase on the PlayStation 5
PS5
Pro.
Pro. Yep.
New PlayStation 5 Chroma collection, which is hilarious because that
Mhm.
was not launched for the PS5 Pro. And then the October months, a little bit of like DLC for
PlayStation Plus games.
PlayStation Plus
Yeah.
perks, DLC for Alan Wake 2, a little bit of a showcase there. Arcade Chronicles got announced. Dragon Age Veilguard got a little bit of a trailer, I believe, or some kind of highlight. And then Dynasty Warriors Origins was revealed. Fantasian Neo Dimension got a little bit of love, which is a game by the original creator of Final Fantasy and his new team that is now being partnered back with Square to release that game on public. Got a little bit of Fear the Spotlight. Got a little bit of got a new Fortnite controller. Hell is Us gameplay
Mhm.
reveal. That was a surprise. PlayStation VR got a little bit of thing. Legacy of Kain, which leaked early. The Soul Reaver 1+2 remastered collection. Lunar remastered, which is great. Old PlayStation 1 RPG coming back remastered.
Mhm.
Metro VR. Monster Hunter Wilds got a little bit of a showcase. Power World got a little bit of a showcase with its new DLC. Stellar Blade, Near Automata crossover, Midnight Walk, cool like little game that everybody thought was just VR, but it's not just VR. DLC for Shredder's Revenge, which was a very weird place to announce that, but sure. Sonic X Shadow Generations getting the movie DLC, tie-in with Keanu Reeves voicing Shadow in the game. Towers of Agasha, which is like an open world game coming to early access. We did get a push for early access on PlayStation during this because PlayStation now has early access offerings, just like Xbox does. So you're going to start seeing more of that, I assume, on console. That's it. This was very weird blog post. Everything was out of order. So you can't really get
this was not how things were announced, but
no.
yeah,
you can kind of get a glimpse of like the breadth of like what gets announced at these things, and typically it's not big. Typically you get like,
well, I think Ghost of Yotei.
No. You get like two to three big things.
Yeah, I'd say that and the PS5 Pro.
Well, that wasn't announced here. That was just like an overview.
Was that not announced at this?
No, it got announced in its own little.
Oh, it did. You're right.
Because I was in San Diego when that trailer showcase happened, and everybody was like, "This is dumb."
Well, and the other big thing was the Fortnite controller. Then clearly,
yeah, Fortnite controller, obviously. Fortnite. But yeah, no. Basically, with the PlayStation stuff, if you couldn't tell from that scattershot approach, like with the state of plays, you never know what you're going to get because you never know if it's going to be like heavily focused on like specific games. Because sometimes you get like Final Fantasy 16 getting a big showcase in there, or like some other like brand new announcements. This time you didn't really get a lot of new stuff that was huge. You just kind of got like a lot of updates on things that are coming to PlayStation. You got Dynasty Warriors, that was cool. That's out now and like reviewing decently, I think. But like that was September. Not a lot of stuff that like is huge that was coming out in the fall last year or early this year. Typically we get like 2 of those a year, whether it's PlayStation Showcase or State of Play.
Yeah.
So we'll probably get one in spring. That's like a little bit more like, hey, here's the Ghost of Yotei release date.
They had they did a gameplay preview for Veilguard, and that did come out.
Yeah, that was the big first. That was like the first thing in the trailer. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, it's just like Sony doesn't really do their own thing very well, in my opinion. Like we'll talk now. I guess we'll talk about like our thoughts on it.
It's the Moon Knight random bullshit go. It's
yeah. It's like, hey, we might have something really cool here. We might have something new to announce. We might have this new, like Tekken 8 got randomly announced on one of these.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. Like you never know what you're gonna get, but also like you can also count on Sony revealing their new stuff at like the big things, like TGA. You're gonna get like we got Intergalactic, the new Naughty Dog game. Got that revealed at the Game Awards. Hey, we got Lego Horizon revealed at Summer Game Fest. With probably something else revealed at Game Fest too that I'm forgetting this year that was like Sony stuff. But you're gonna get more of their like huge things. You're gonna get like a show like that, and then maybe you'll get like a Ghost of Yotei. Maybe you'll get a God of War Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll get like one. In each of the state of plays, you'll probably get like one thing. Because I know there was a state of play in like the summer, or like whatever the summer thing was, where we got Concord and we got Astrobot. I think no, that was the spring one last year. We got Concord announced, and then we also got Astrobot announced. Sure, like
one of those did really well.
Yeah, one of them was was the game of the year for the game.
One of those did very well, and the other
one of them was
very expensive.
So yeah, like these are always hit or miss. Like you're gonna get some Sony first party stuff, but you're mostly gonna get like a scattershot of like, hey, here's like some updates. Here's like some first gameplay reveals. Here's this, that, whatever else we want to throw out, whatever people are paying to put in our thing. So here's the difference. The Xbox Directs, they tell you almost unless they're just like a longer one, because they've done it before where those Xbox Directs are more like the Sony presentations, where they're longer, have more games.
I think they ended one with like Starfield, like, and it was like a whole
and then they had
20 minutes on Starfield.
Yeah. Like you're never gonna know specifically with the Xbox stuff either. That's not us saying the Xbox ones are a lot different, but typically the Xbox ones at least tell you like some of what you're gonna get. The PlayStation ones tell you like you're gonna get like X amount of minutes of content plus like X amount of games maybe. And they typically tell you like if there's gonna be what console they're gonna be for, like if there's VR2 stuff or just console stuff. But the difference between the two is specifically like the Sony stuff you tune into because you want the review. That's still like reveals and updates. The Xbox stuff is still more like the in depth. So if you're just there for the reveals and the trailers and the excitement, you want to tune into the Sony stuff. If you're here for like the games and like the developers and like hearing more about them, or maybe getting like some more detailed stuff and maybe even some like more indie stuff, that's the Xbox ones.
Yeah, it's
as of recent years.
For like the Xbox shows are more informative, but if you're looking for like content to react to, like if you're like a creator or something like that, then the PlayStation ones usually have more.
You're also just going to get more pop just because PlayStation reaction or whatever is going to get more than an Xbox reaction.
Yeah,
like that's just how it goes.
They didn't just lose the console wars; they lost the YouTube they lost the thumbnail awards. The thumbnail wars.
Yeah. And now we get into the one that kind of started this whole shindig. Because we're not talking about the Ubisoft the Ubisoft Play or whatever. EA Play is that one was called. I don't remember what the Ubisoft Connect.
Ubisoft Connect. No, Connect is their platform. I thought it was just Ubisoft. I thought it was Ubisoft Direct.
No, I'm pretty sure it's Ubisoft Connect.
Okay, I have to look it up.
Yeah, do that.
Me being the big Ubisoft defender, I have to.
Yeah, we're not talking about them today. We've talked about them enough.
What are those called?
Yeah, actually, I will mention that they lay off more people.
Forward. Ubisoft Forward.
So we were both wrong. Got it.
We were both wrong. It just proves that no one knows what Ubisoft is thinking.
Yeah. The good news is we probably won't have to watch one of those this year and get the next Just Dance revealed. So with Nintendo, obviously
they can't afford it anymore.
Nintendo started this whole thing back even before, like well before COVID. Like they started doing Nintendo Directs and like the Nintendo tree houses and stuff at the E3s and everything when they pulled out of E3 and started doing their own thing. Nintendo Direct is like the branding. Like no one's beating it. No one's going to beat that. You know what you're going to get when you see the Nintendo Direct, like the red lettering posted to Twitter, and it's like, hey, this Nintendo Direct. And they are the best at communicating everything about these. They never tell you the reveals, but sometimes they do. Sometimes they'll be like, hey, we're going to focus entirely on this, or hey, we're going to showcase this game, or hey, this game will not be present, or hey, the Switch 2 will not be present.
You know what you're
really annoyed about. They're always like, because there's three different kinds. There's the Nintendo Direct, which is like the proper, like, it's going to be some Nintendo announcements for games, also some third-party stuff, and then maybe some hardware stuff, but most likely it's not. Then you get the partner directs, the partner showcases, which are specifically about third-party, and then maybe you get like one Nintendo reveal, depending on like the time of year, and if someone else is like co-developing it, or they're publishing it, but they're not developing it. And then you get the indie world, which is specifically about indie games that are coming to Nintendo Switch, whether they're new or ports. So they are very, no pun intended, direct about their marketing with this for a very specific reason. Japanese company that knows their branding and knows what they want to tell people, and they're very specific about it, regardless of how that comes across to like the audience, because the audience hates that because they are like, wait, Switch 2 news when? And it's like they literally said in the copy of the announcement, the Nintendo Switch
the information
successor will not be featured in this presentation, and then they all get pissed and whatever. So dumb. Don't do that. If you're that kind of person, you're not hyping responsibly, and if you're not hyping responsibly, I don't want to talk to you.
True.
Because you're annoying. But so I think they have the best communication in terms of like what you're getting every single time. They're terrible about announcing it ahead of time. They announce it like a day in advance. But like nowadays, they announce
there will be a direct tomorrow. It's like
I remember
my schedule. I
don't remember if we reacted to this one or if we watched the one about the museum. We watched the museum
one. We watched like, probably the least important Nintendo Switch thing they've ever done.
Well, they haven't had a direct. They haven't had an actual direct.
That's true. Yeah, June. We're pretty starved for Nintendo.
Here's the rundown of what got announced in the June direct. So, and Nintendo do great rundowns on their website where they talk about they usually have like 4 big things in like these bigger directs where it's like these are the 4 big budget things that we're announcing here, and this is what we're going to talk about, and this is what you're going to get focused on. And then they have the headlines that are like interspersed throughout. So in the June 18th direct that happened right after Summer Game Fest, they usually do one around that time. That's its own thing. They announced Mario and Luigi Brothership, which came out in November. They announced they were the first to announce the remake of Dragon Quest III, and also Dragon Quest 1+2 coming this year now. They announced The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, which
Mhm.
came out in September or August, I can't remember. And then they showed the first gameplay of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond, and then announced the subtitle and officially gave it a 2025 release date because that's the first time we've
Yes.
seen it since it was teased in 2018.
Yeah.
So
Those were its
those were
big
the
four.
those were the big four in order. Actually, that's in the
Yeah.
order they were announced in.
Yeah.
Nintendo is my favorite. I mean, I'm a Nintendo guy, so I love Nintendo games and like the Nintendo IPs and stuff. So, but aside from that, Nintendo, after they learned their mistake from Metroid Prime 4 the first time, now basically just shows a game and it's out within 6 months.
Yeah.
They very rarely are like, hey, here's game, year out.
Yeah.
Like, and it's my favorite thing because they screwed up once and have
Bethesda,
never done it again.
I'm begging you to pick up on this.
No, they're never
like,
gonna do
oh, we're going to talk about Elder Scrolls 6.
Yeah.
You'll be
never
dead
hear that
before
game.
this game
Never
comes
hear that
out.
game. Never hear from it again. No, I have to shut down my friends who are hype about that at every one of these showcases. I'm like, you're not getting that. You're not. It's just not happening. But yeah, so Nintendo basically at all of these showcases since 2018, they're basically like, hey, here are games. These games will be out within 6 to 8 months.
Yeah.
And if they are not, then they will be at the next direct with a date. Like, that's what they do. And you can almost entirely count on that.
Everything they have, so like if you look at, we're looking at like they post their own recaps of the directs, so we're looking just straight at that right now, and there's like a lot of stuff down in like the, you know, aside from the big four, and they pack all of this into like just a 45-minute video. It's just like,
and only
they get
only a handful
like,
of them get like
concise.
Showcase.
Yeah,
you get like the big 4 to 5 showcase things, and then you get like the headlines. You get like a little bit of showcase on the NES Championships game that got announced and released like within a month or two. Fairy Tail 2 gets a little bit of showcase because
new Wii Sports update.
The new Switch Sports update. You get the Fantasians coming to Switch, and you get a little bit of a showcase there explaining what it is.
Oh, the new Mario Party, which was a big seller for them, was not even like one of their big four. It was just like, oh yeah, here's Jamboree.
Hey, guess what? Marvel vs. Capcom is back.
Yeah,
not even a
people
big thing.
People are losing their minds.
No one saw that coming. Just at a random Nintendo Direct, got announced, and it was out within 6 months.
We brought here you go. You want to play Stray? We got it. Here it is.
Stray's here. The Lego Horizon game's coming to Switch. Tales of the Shire, I think, was announced here.
Was it? Tales of the Shire announced at this?
Hey, guess what? Another collection of Ace Attorney games, which one of them has never come out overseas. Hey, here you go. It's coming to Switch later this year. Like, banger. Friggin' Saga got a remake that got announced here. It's just they don't waste time, and if they do waste time, guess what? A minute, if that. Yeah. At these bigger like 45-minute presentations, you lose a minute, and then you're gone. You're on the next thing.
The Nintendo Directs are just like they're the home run derbies of showcases. They're just like they're like softballs and dingers. Just lob that thing up here, bang.
And then when you get like one of the Nintendo people, like one of the hosts or one of the actual people, like faces of Nintendo, come out on the screen and don't just say, "Hey, here's like, what do you think of that? Here's these Nintendo Switch headlines," and then they snap and then move on. When they're actually there and they speak to you and are like, "Hey, here's a new game that we're going to talk about," and they give like an actual intro, and then you get like 3 to 4 to 5 to 10 minutes of whatever game that is, and then that's like one of the big titles, and then they move on, and then it's the next set of headlines, and you get 5 more games, and then hey, guess what? Here's another somewhat big thing, and then like they just keep moving. So this has been the gold standard since 2018. Will continue to be the gold standard moving forward because no one has found out that they just need to copy this directly, which doesn't mean that it's perfect and doesn't fit everything. Like, you can't have this format or focus too much on this format and then get what we got with the Xbox Developer Direct. Like, and those are important, and that's what we also need that. But for Sony style stuff, even if you're only giving like 7 games to 8 games, I mean, the last one that we talked about gave you like 13, 14, 15, maybe even more than that. I wasn't keeping count. But if you're gonna give over 12 games, and like you want to spend time on all of them, you gotta pace it better. because eventually you're going to lose the audience.
Yeah, it comes down to like because some games it's like, obviously Ghost of Yotei, that was like the big game that got its big
but even then it was just that was almost shorter than some of the other games because it was just a reveal trailer.
Yeah, I would have liked a bit more in depth on that, because that is really, after Ghost of Tsushima, that is really
but you can't ask for that at the reveal, because that is going to be at the next state of play.
Right.
And then you're going to get the deep dive, and then the ending thing for that will be the next thing to look forward to.
Yeah.
So
they always give you something.
There's a caveat to what you're asking for when it comes to, we want more of that but less of this. If you're asking for more of Ghost of Yotei, then it's not a reveal trailer. It's like you're gonna go full gameplay reveal and all this other stuff when they're not ready for it. Mm-hmm. Even if it's coming out this year, they still have to pace themselves with. If we want them to do the Nintendo cadence in terms of releasing, there's a difference between announcing a game like September, right? So they announced Ghost of Yotei in September. We know it's not coming out in spring. So it's probably going to be 6 months from September to when we get the next state of play, when we will see gameplay.
Yeah.
And then we will get a release date. And then it will probably be in between like 3 to 6 months from that release date, like when we see that gameplay to the release date. So it will be within a year of the initial reveal, if I had to guess. So like you always, like all we're talking about is bullshit anyways, because like we're just talking about like our preferences and like our thoughts here, because we watched so many of these and we covered so many of these, and we still do enjoy watching all of these because we love video games, and like a lot of these IP are like our favorite things. But you can't ask everyone to follow the same cadence as much as you'd like to have something sped up or something elongated, because at the end of the day, it's a business. Like, people are paying, like some companies are paying to be in these showcases. Some companies don't have a lot to show because, hey, the game's coming out in a year and we don't want to show too much because that's not polished enough to show off in a trailer. Like, and you see missteps all the time when it comes to this kind of stuff. So it's a lot.
I hate to interrupt.
Oh God, what?
Random sports moment. I just got the funniest notification from ESPN. NFL sets new season low with 182 concussions. Imagine bragging about only having almost 200 concussions. Like, why is this an ESPN notification? Why are you sending this to millions of people's phones?
If you're gonna write an article about that and do a report on that, why would you give the number? Because that just makes it sound stupid.
Yeah, like, because here's the full notification.
Low in concussions per season.
Sets new season low with 182 concussions, comma, down 17% from 2023. Just leave off just say NFL season sets new season low in concussions, down 17% from 2023. Don't put 182 of them in there. Like, that seems really, like, well, apparently it's not really high. Apparently that's a season low. But also, like, that seems like more than, like, because I watch football pretty regularly, and I'm big into fantasy, and so I have Red Zone, so I get commercial free.
You got to take into account like that also counts like practice.
That's right. Yeah. I'm only seeing games.
Like you still have to report that, so they still have that in the data.
Oh my God, so, 182. Wow, and here's the thing: if Tua weren't playing, that'd be only like 150 or something.
Yeah, okay, that does not account for all of the number.
I'm kidding, yeah. But yeah, I saw it and I was like, why would they like, it is a win, but the way they phrased it is just so, it's like, why would you include the number? Because that's still gonna, like, normal people are gonna see that and be like, that seems high still, like 182.
Yeah.
How the fuck do we segue this?
I'll just segue it back because we'll just talk about Switch 2 now.
Yeah,
like, because we didn't talk about it at the reveal. We didn't react to the release or anything because it was just a trailer about the leaked hardware that I've seen specs of for 2 years or whatever. And I was, bro, I had to go back and look at some of my old dot articles, which, by the way, dear Lord help me trying to run that site on Chrome.
On Opera too. I've been having some trouble because Chichile just had a great report about Riot doing game changers for League, and I was like trying to read it, and I was like, it's fighting me. The website is now fighting me. I can't read anything.
Yeah,
guys, we want you to succeed. we don't gamers succeed. We want you to succeed. The Dot Esports to succeed. Fix this. It's
Yeah.
bad.
Oh, it's real bad. Also,
It's real
I still
bad.
haven't gotten over this, and I don't know if I've talked about this publicly outside of like just our talks and stuff. But I was trying to go a while ago. I was trying to go back and I mean, I was still a thought when I was doing this, but I was trying to go
Mhm.
back to find like my old reports on Switch 2 leaks and stuff because I
Mhm.
had done like months of research into like a bunch of the leaked like specs and everything, and like digging through like Reddit threads and like Fama boards and all this other stuff to get like the specs and track down like all these posts about stuff to give like comprehensive list of like what the specs could be and like link back to the original leaks and everything. Yeah, they just unpublished a bunch of stuff without telling me. Like 100 plus articles just got unpublished, and I never got told, and I was never given a reason. And then I found out it was because they all had affiliate links, and they just didn't want to go through and remove them. So they just unpublished everything with
Oh my
an affiliate button or whatever
god.
that because we had to put those in
I'm gonna tag
for that
this.
like
Yeah.
7 month period or whatever. So anything
Ugh.
in the hardware section that had it got pulled, which is great. But yeah. So anyways, but to talk about the Switch 2 because I've known about these specs and like some of this
Mhm.
leaked stuff forever. Um, the model looks exactly like we thought it was going to look like since
Yep.
the first like model leak started dropping like 6 months ago. Exactly like it, like the leak specs look like in terms of like the magnetic Joy Cons that are probably gonna have MagSafe.
Yeah.
So it's gonna work like a Mac. It's gonna have a latch on it, so it's gonna hold a lot better. But so it's still gonna have the latch, so you have to hit the button on to disconnect on the back, just like the others. I would assume I didn't go and look at the back of the Switch, the Joy-Con to see that, but it's gonna magnetically latch on. They're probably gonna change the Switch snap, like the click to that new thunk, kind of like thunking noise that it
Mhm.
made during the trailer. That was very on purpose, I would assume. Screen is a little bit bigger, bezels a little smaller. It's probably gonna be LCD, not OLED, just based on like what everything we've heard. It's not that big of a deal because the LCD screen that's going to be in this is going to be much higher quality than the Switch's LCD screen. Like new LCD is much better than old. Blah blah blah. New ports, new this, new kickstand, whatever. Confirmed backwards compatibility, all but a couple games. Caveat: not every game will be backwards compatible, but what they're talking about is most likely games that have a gimmick. So, Ring Fit,
Mhm.
Labo, a bunch of games that like rely on Switch One specific hardware that will no longer be in the Switch 2, regardless of what that is, and they're going to provide a list of that closer to launch. That's what it means. It's not going to be like any of the regular games. Like you're not going to be like, oh, I want to play like the Ezio collection or whatever, and it's not going to be
Mhm.
playable. Like, and it's backwards compatible with the hardware too, so you can use your
Mhm.
cartridges. But to get to like the specifics of this, with the reveal, we got look at a new Mario Kart, which will probably launch. I would guess it's probably going to be called Mario Kart 10 because they're probably going to count
Mhm.
Mario Kart Tour as Mario Kart 9. If I had to guess, especially now that the
Yeah.
courses
And
are in Mario
ten's
Kart
a
8.
nice big round number.
Exactly. Probably going to get Mario Kart X or Mario Kart 10 or whatever they're going to brand it.
Mhm.
It's going to have more. It looks like it's going to have up to 24 people in a race.
Yeah.
Potential new gimmicks in terms of like how the stages are laid out and all this stuff. Uh, it looks like redesigns for all the characters. Looks like people are like, oh, it's the Donkey Kong design from the movie, and it's like, no, it looks like they're going back to like Super Mario Kart designs where everybody's a
Yeah.
little bit smaller and like chibified a little more cartoony. It looks like they're going back towards that to give it a distinct style. My guess is that there's going to be more crossover with Nintendo property. So whether that's like DLC and stuff that they're gonna, because they're probably gonna do like a season pass instead of like a instead of just releasing everything at once and then not having DLC with it. Probably gonna do like a season pass or like a circuit or whatever they called the deluxe pass or whatever that they released way late for 8 on Switch. They'll probably have like there's gonna probably be more Nintendo characters crossing over into the game. My guess is we're gonna get Captain Falcon in it. We're gonna get like Fox and a couple other
Mhm.
representatives, and there's gonna be more stages based on Nintendo IP that's not Mario specific because we got a little bit of that uh in the tail end of 8. Like we got F-Zero, we got the Big Blue stage, we got the Animal Crossing stage, we got a Hyrule stage, and then like Link and the Inklings and Isabelle were all playable. So it's not going to be the first time that happens. My guess is just going to be a little bit more expanded. It's not going to be full on Smash Bros. Kart. It's just going to be, hey, more IP from Nintendo in the game. Why not? Who cares? Um, so that's cool. And then what was it? April 2nd, we're getting the the big blowout direct that's going to announce basically everything you want to know. It's going to show the game. It's going to show the console in action a little bit. It's going to announce basically the first year of games,
Mm-hmm.
because it's probably going to launch close to holiday. It's probably going to launch like post June.
Mm-hmm.
July is like a sweet spot, so maybe July is like where they're aiming, but it's going to be post June if I had to guess for a release.
Yeah.
So they're only going to have 6
Summer's
months.
good. All the kids are home.
They're going to
All the
have like a
parents are.
6 month window to like fill this year before like, but like technically 8 months because of the fiscal year. So
Mm-hmm.
they're probably going to announce the full year of content in terms of like release dates for like a new Mario, new Mario Kart, whatever ports they're bringing over that are gonna fill the gap. My guess is we're gonna finally get the port for Wind Waker, and then Twilight Princess will come eventually because that's like there's like three after Xenoblade Chronicles X launches in March. There's like 3 Wii U games left that people care about, and 2 of them are Zelda ports. Like two of them are Zelda ports. So we'll see where that goes. I don't think we're ever gonna get Nintendo Land, but we'll see where that ends up going. My guess is that they're also going to announce what the like cool new button that everybody's freaking out about is going to be.
Yeah.
We're going to see like, okay, are they actually going to be able to use the Switch as a mouse, like the Joy-Con as a mouse?
That's really that. Yeah, I'm really curious to see that. And they're gonna
We're
be
going
like,
to see that
they're
kind
gonna
of
do
stuff.
like a fun, the cute thing. He's gonna be like, oh, and he's gonna like show it off.
My thought process here is that so I don't know what the button's going to do, but if it is the cast button that some people are theorizing, and the dock is going to have like its own functionality to basically house the game.
Mm-hmm.
They could really do some cool stuff where you're using the Switch as the Wii U gamepad, but you're casting it to the TV through the dock. So like, there's some cool stuff that could happen there. I think the Switch 2 has a lot of potential to be like the successor, not only to the Switch but also to the DS, because they're done with Wii U ports. They ported a bunch of Wii stuff and Wii U stuff, and they're starting to do GameCube stuff. They have not touched DS or 3DS. There's so many games on that console. Like Konami just released the like DS the ports of the Castlevania DS games, and it's a great port. Like I want to see more of that.
Because they're working on a new DS.
No, I think it's because they're going to port a lot of 3DS games and DS games to
Switch 2. Okay.
To Switch 2, including Kid Icarus Uprising finally.
Okay.
But it's going to be like a full-on remaster. And we get
I don't know what that game is, so I guess
Kid Icarus Uprising. For reference, Kid Icarus had like 2 games. It's the one Pit from Palutena from Smash. That's their franchise. It had 2 games on like the NES and SNES, and then it was dead forever. And they brought Pit to Smash Brawl, and then Sakurai made a Kid Icarus game called Kid Icarus Uprising for the 3DS. It is an amazing game. It's really weird in how it controls on the 3DS, but it is an amazing game. Everybody's been wanting it ported or re-released somehow forever. It's an easy layup. Just port that without the weird controls. Just redo the controls, port it in HD, or redo the textures, whatever. I don't know what you got to do to make that game, bring it over, but I think that that's the next stage, is that whether they have to find a way to implement 3DS functionality or they just start porting 3DS games, I think that's next.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where the next ports are going to come from, is like it's going to be GameCube and a little bit of Wii and then also some 3DS. Like they're going to start pulling ports from these other places that are either going to be remasters or re-releases or whatever. But we're going to get the full blowout on what probably the first year on April 2nd.
Yeah.
All the hands-on, the tickets for all the confirmations for all the hands-on stuff that's going on across the globe from like basically the day after that event through
Did you see the now deleted Jeff Keighley tweet where he told everyone to have a miserable day because he didn't get a ticket?
No, I did not see that.
Or have a rotten day, I think it was.
Yeah.
Cause it was, and he shared his email of him, an inbox, an email inbox of him telling he getting denied. Yeah. And I don't know if he deleted it. One or two reasons. One, the boring reason is because, like, I don't know, his email address was in it or something. He doesn't want that out there.
Oh, he got told by Nintendo to delete it.
Yeah, the other, the more funny one is that Nintendo said, "Hey, can you not do?" Yeah. But like, I think it's funny to like, because like we don't really see. I don't want Jeff to become like this just soulless face of just like the Game Awards and you know, simping for the Muppets. I want him. I like when he shows personality and acts like a human being. And I don't want him to just sort of become like the Game Awards guy who like previews, who's just like, and now at our next world premiere, and like he just like because when you watch Game Awards, and I guess we transition into our next topic, which is talking about Game Awards. He talked. Because this happened a lot of the most recent one where he was talking about things where he's like there was one where he was on the verge of tears. He's like, I can't believe we get to show this, and it's like, all right. And Okami, yeah, obviously really hype, but like, all right, like you're not giving out the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, let's calm down a little here.
Yeah, like give Jeff all the flack you will. Like you can like all the stories you hear of him. If like you're in media, you hear some stories about him on the back end and. Like all the people that are like, oh, he's a shill and all this other stuff, and like the Game Awards can do better. The Game Awards this year did do better, and it did have a lot more personality in it in terms of like Jeff showing like how much he cares about like specific games. He did get emotional at certain points talking about things. He gave a little bit more in terms of like there was no wrap it up. There was no like he talked about some issues that were important and gave people the stage to talk about some issues. Didn't cut people off when they were talking about specific things. Didn't do any of that kind of stuff. And then also did look emotional at times when he was getting to announce these things that he cares about.
Yeah.
And that's a pivot to that, I think, is the Game Awards. I think the Game Awards now has this was the best Game Awards in a long time. And I think it's going to benefit a lot from that benefit that what it did this year. Mm-hmm. And I think like the vibes are going to be good moving forward.
Vibes are more positive.
Summer Game Fest, I think, is just ads. I don't like Summer Game Fest. I think Summer Game Fest is literally just like it's because but there's also the caveat.
Summer Game Fest pays for the Game Awards because it is just ads.
So both of them are shill. Like both of them are shill fest, but at least the Game Awards, like you kind of know what you're getting into because all award shows are shills. All award shows are shill fest and like circle jerks to an extent and all this other stuff. Summer Game Fest is not that. Summer Game Fest is just ads with a couple cool things that are just like added on. You don't get any of like the feeling or stuff. It's mostly just ads. But that also comes with the caveat of it's not just the showcase, it's also days of play.
Right.
So if you're a media member and don't know what that, or if you're not a media person and don't know what that is, during Summer Game Fest, not only is it like the E3 window, so you're also getting all these other showcases from like third parties or a couple of the big dogs do it too. Nintendo usually does it after the fact.
Directs, PC gaming show,
and we'll talk about those here in a second too, just for a little bit. But the like Nintendo, whether they do it before or after, like everybody kind of plays into this window that used to be the E3 window, where they're all announcing their stuff, whether it's at Summer Game Fest or in partnership with them or whatever. But you get like this big window, and then at Summer Game Fest, they do the show on a Thursday, I think, is like when they typically do it. And then like Friday, Saturday is a thing called Days of Play, where a bunch of media people and like influencers and stuff go out to Los Angeles and get to play the games that were showcased at Summer Game Fest or upcoming games and give previews, stream them, do a bunch of like cool stuff in that area to then have more coverage around it than you would get at a Game Awards. Now, Game Awards does have that. It's just all on the down low. It's all individual media events. It's all behind closed door stuff. Maybe a couple previews if you go out there a little early. But none of it's like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, this is a Summer Game Fest tie-in event where there's like, you go to this one compound building and there's like Sega and Xbox and Sony, all like a bunch of indie devs with like booths that are like hosting media people and setting or like doing even like behind closed doors showcases for like things like Monster Hunter, because Monster Hunter was revealed at the Game Awards and then was again at Summer Game Fest, and that was the first time people got to go behind closed doors with it. So that is where the caveat with Summer Game Fest comes, and like Gamescom is its own thing. Like it's not really, it's Jeff running the show, but it's even more so like it's a show for that show, and that's an industry thing and like a convention. So you can't really tie that into the other two. Like you get some announcements. Typically you get like one really big thing. I think Mafia was the big thing this year. Got like Borderlands 4, which we already knew about, but got like a date for it or like a reveal of some kind, teaser. So you get some stuff, but not to the level of the other two. And those aren't Jeff's babies. The other two are Jeff's babies. So, those don't count the same as like the company run stuff. I'm not going to talk about the Ubisoft awards because those are always like hit or miss. Don't worry about it. The EA plays.
No, I feel because like listen, I feel like I'm like Ubisoft's last defender, where I'm like I want because Because like I just want to say this about Ubisoft and about Assassin's Creed Shadows. I feel like there's such a forced hate campaign for this game, and even if you have genuine concerns about Assassin's Creed, and I was watching a skill up video recently, because I saw that bullshit rag the Park Place, like, or that Park Place, whatever the hell it's called, like take his video and get this wild extrapolation from it. Essentially, in his video, sorry for this tangent, I had to talk about it. Essentially, in his video, he talked about his concerns with Yasuke from like a gameplay perspective. How he says the three pillars of Assassin's Creed, and I agree with this, is stealth, parkour, combat, and I forget.
Yes, okay, basically,
I'm gonna mispronounce her name. Yeah, Naue.
Now, yeah, it's not Naui, so I think it's
Naue.
Naue,
and he said like Naue. Probably if I'm wrong about her name. Naue is kind of good at all three. Like obviously really great at parkour and stealth, and pretty decent at combat. And Yasuke is just good at combat, and how that kind of like
it takes two of the elements.
It's noticeable, away. And yet this article takes this and goes, oh, this backs up our report from our inside source that Ubisoft is trying to pivot away from Yasuke being a focal point of the game after the negative reaction to the concerns about historical relevancy and accuracy. And I'm like, where are you getting this shit from? And I guess my point is there's such a forced hate campaign for this game. And it's like, and I get it from a stance if you don't trust Ubisoft to deliver anymore. I get that. Listen, I am one of the few Star Wars Outlaws defenders, but there are serious concerns with that game. I still have fun with it, but there's some very serious problems with that game. If this game fails, if Shadows fails, and Ubisoft like goes down, even if you don't like their games, that's bad for the games industry. That's bad for games as a whole.
They already shuttered almost 3. They shuttered 2 studios and restructured 1 in December, and they just restructured 2 more.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad when these things happen. Like people like think like the people who are celebrating Concord failing are the dumbest motherfuckers alive. It's like this is such a dramatic step backwards for the industry, because this is like easily the biggest failure that's going to have many ramifications on the games, on the industry as a whole. And that's just my one off.
I'll end this little tangent by saying, if you believe a grifter has an inside source that isn't just like one guy, because there were reports that like some dude at like EA or I can't remember what the other company was like leaking things to right-wing people on Twitter or whatever. It's like, if you believe anybody's source is like anything of importance beyond like some disgruntled employee at a developer that's like leaking random Slack messages that are like of barely any importance, like if you believe any grifter that says they have any source of like actual depth, check yourself at the door, because they don't. They're just saying things to say things. They want to be journalists so bad because they don't like what journalists do, and they don't like not having a platform to say things that have any credibility, or being discredited by like everyone in the industry. So they feel the need to make up sources or act like they have any kind of credible source for things that they can then be like, oh yeah, this like somewhat possible thing is happening internally. Like the moving away from Yasuke, not a thing. That's not. Yeah. That they're so deep into development. That's not something you can do in 6 months.
They're like they took extra time to give the game polish. You can't like completely like take away parts of like a character story and like rewrite.
You're not going to remove main mission quests. In 6 months.
It made no sense when they said it. Now it still makes no sense.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to enjoy this game. I don't know if it's enough. This was one of my predictions last week. I don't think it's going to be enough to. It's not going to be enough to save Ubisoft, but it's not going to be so bad it's going to doom it.
It's not going to sink it. It's not going to save it. Like at best, it's going to be like a bright spot in like that they can take moving forward into whatever they do next. Like that's about all it can do at this point. Like there's too much legwork to do for one game. That's not, unless it just becomes like a mega hit, which I don't think it has the gas to do right now based on the previews.
No, I don't think so.
But yeah, and then like we'll pivot from that because I'm tired of talking about grifters and idiots. But like
it always happens.
The idea of like the indie showcase. We'll end this here talking about like the indie showcase, where it's like, hey, so you have all the big guys that do their own thing, whether it's partnering with Jeff Keighley or partnering with like, because when I'm talking about indies, I'm talking about like the not big developers or people that have like super big connections. I'm talking about like the devolvers who are like, yeah, maybe a Devolver game will show up in like a Nintendo Direct every once in a while, but like it's not going to be like a headliner. It's not, or like it's not like the big hits. Like it's not like I mean, Undertale, when that got announced for Switch or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
was like a big hit because it had the momentum behind it of being like this huge indie game. Same with like Shovel Knight or like Hollow Knight. Whenever Silksong gets announced, it's going to be at a big thing or it's going to be its own thing. It's not going to be at uh, like I don't know, like a Guerrilla Collective or like obviously it's not going to be at like the Wholesome Direct or anything. But you have all these very important, specific, niche, like smaller indie developer directs or indie publisher directs that slot in during the Summer Game Fest or throughout the year that are important. They're not always great. Most of the time they're not great. Most of the time they're kind of sporadic, but that's because they don't have like production budgets. They're put together by like smaller teams. They have to go find a host that like fits their like it's a content creator that fits their niche or fits what they want to do or that they have a connection with that won't like charge them an arm and a leg to host the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have so many boxes to check and only so much that they can do with it because they're not a big publisher.
Mm-hmm.
Devolver's the one exception because it is a big publisher. It is just mostly focused
It
on
publishes.
indie games.
It publishes. Yeah, it's a big publisher of
So
small for small developers.
exactly. So, you don't get like I watched basically all of them this year at Summer Game Fest, and
Mm-hmm.
most of us in the industry try to. You're gonna see overlap. You're gonna see a game that got revealed first at Summer Game Fest get time in the sun at these other showcases and stuff. Like you're gonna get that kind of stuff. It's not something that, how do I put this? It's not something that you can hold against them because they're small. Like these are the ones that you can't nitpick because they're doing something that's important in their own way. So I don't know. I don't really know how to like extrapolate that point anymore. Just
Mm.
because like the importance of those showcases isn't that the showcase is good. It's that they're
It's that
showcasing things.
those games. Yeah, it's that it's for the games those because those games need it the most. Like
Those
you
games probably don't have the reach or the monetary like
to bring it all the way back to Xbox. Like we said, Doom's gonna be really great anyway. Like Doom is gonna be successful.
Ninja Gaiden could have got announced anywhere.
Ninja Gaiden, yeah, just a Ninja
big
Gaiden
enough.
Shadow Drop trailer. Be like, oh, we're working. Like, here's a trailer for 4, and then at the very end, it's like, oh, and 2 Black is out today, and it's like that would have done well. I think South of Midnight and Clair Obscur, I think those games do like benefit more from having those deep looks into it, but yeah, for like Devolver Direct, Guerrilla Collective, the PC Gaming Show, the Wholesome Direct, all of these like smaller shows, because the people who are watching that shows, like you can make the case that like the bigger PlayStation, Xbox, and obviously the Game Awards and Summer Games Fest, those attract the bigger audience, but also includes a little bit more casual fans. The people who are in the weeds with like the smaller shows, like they're really supportive of games like that and they want to play games like that. So when they get to see them, then they are way more likely to actually buy them and support these smaller developers. So that's why those shows are in terms of like like arguably the most importance relatively to the games being shown.
Yeah, I don't really have a lot more to add to that, just because like if you're gonna go and nitpick like these indie directs, like if you're gonna go nitpick these indie things,
I don't think anyone's nitpicking.
there's
these.
yeah, like
are people?
Yeah, like I mean there are people that go in and grade all of these things.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Like they go in and they're like, oh yeah, this is like a 4 out of 10, and it's like cool. If you're going into these expecting them to be like if you go into a Nintendo Direct,
a grade just seems really stupid. Like I know we I'm sure you and I both watch gaming content creators who like don't grade it, but they'll talk about what they liked, what they didn't like, blah blah blah. But like this just seems like a dumb thing to put a score to. Even game reviews sometimes I think like, what's a score accomplishing here? But especially for showcases, that just seems really stupid.
Yeah, I mean it's just something that people latch onto. It's like it's the numbers game. Yeah. People like hearing, yeah, this is good because it's X out of X, or like it's an A plus instead of like a B minus or whatever. Like, I don't understand that kind of talk around. I think if you're gonna do that, you can't compare you can't compare between these
No.
because if
No.
you're going to try and compare a Nintendo Direct to what Xbox did, they're two completely different things trying to accomplish two completely different goals. If you can't compare the Xbox thing to an indie developer thing because they don't have the resources to go take cameras to different developers and like film like live action segments. Like if someone's gonna film a live action segment for an indie direct, guess what? It's gonna be in front of like it's gonna be in front of a webcam, or it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
be them sitting on a couch
Yeah.
or something. Like you can't compare them and contrast them in the exact same way, which is why like all of these are important. Okay, now Scott, you have to grade them. Which one do you like the best?
I think so. My partner and I started talking to each other and got together because we were both like interested in the Game Awards. So it's kind of like a sentimental favorite for me. In terms of which actual showcase I enjoy watching the most. I don't know. I'm too much of a casual and I like the big reveals. Maybe it is still maybe it's the Game Awards. The Game Awards for me anyway. Especially, I just think because this last year was such a really strong one, because it actually like did proper awards. But I guess I don't
Are you
know.
sure?
Actually.
Are you sure the Game Awards isn't swaying you this year because we didn't have to cover it?
Well, I still did kind of. Like I wrote
okay. You know
writing
what
a
I
few
mean.
things for Insider,
You
but
didn't have
no.
to sit in a call and be like, okay,
Can someone grab this?
Yeah, grab this. Hey, who's up? Who doesn't have anything? Who can grab?
I wonder
this?
how like IGN handles this. Like I'd be curious to see what like a big
I'm gonna
outlet
guess
does.
90% of it's under embargo.
Yeah, they probably have everything already. That's a good point.
Because
So
I know people that played Split Fiction before it got announced. So
actually, you know what? I guess even though I'm not like a big Nintendo guy, I guess in terms of format and because they are like the pioneers of it in terms of like what the modern like showcase blueprint is, I guess I got to tip my hat to Nintendo and the directs.
yeah, I mean that was gonna be my pick just because like whenever there's a new Nintendo Direct, it's always like, I mean it's the one that my friends care about the most. Like most of my friend group is like, oh yeah, did you watch the new trailer from this or did you watch the Direct?
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever. I think it always has the best bang for your buck because there's always going to be something.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm a Nintendo person, so there's always going to be something for me regardless. Whether it's something weird, obscure, like F-Zero 99's a thing. Like, cool. F-Zero gets a new thing for the first time in over 2 decades. 2 decades. And it's like it's a battle royale based on the original. Yeah, sure, why not? Like I've told this story before, but I was at Disney World with my brother, sister-in-law, and dad, standing in line for Rock and Roller Coaster, and I knew there was a direct going on, but I couldn't watch it live. And my phone started blowing up because they revealed Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So I watched the trailer for that in line for Rock and Roller Coaster and cried. Got like teary eyed and was like, just I wanted to talk to people about it. But yeah, I mean, all of these are great in their own way, and it all depends on what your fandom is. Like, I don't like console wars or anything, but like, what console do you have? What kind of games are you into? Like, what kind of what kind of presentation do you like in terms of like how the games are shown? Like, do you like hearing from the developers? Do you like just seeing multiple trailers? Do you like getting a little bit more of a deep dive? Because if you like hearing from the developers nowadays, that's more of an Xbox thing when they do their directs because they don't do them as frequently. But when they do, it's typically these developer ones. If you like getting a little bit more depth into your thing, like into the games you like, you're probably gonna like the PlayStation one a bit more. If you just like seeing a bunch of cool games announced and getting a little bit of like info on all of them, the Nintendo Direct's your things. And if you just like the reveals, it's the Game Awards, Summer Game Fest, or like any of those kind of showcases. Like there's a little bit of something for everyone, and I think now that we've kind of boiled down where everything gets shown and how everything is going to be shown over years of these like formats being developed by these companies, now the Ubisoft forwards are kind of not really a thing. Now the EA Play is kind of gone, and they just kind of focus on going to these bigger showcases or partnering with EA or PlayStation or whatever. Now that we have that, I think it's much easier to be like, oh, I don't want to watch the Xbox thing because I know how they show things. I'll just watch the trailer later.
Mm-hmm.
Or oh, like Nintendo's gonna have like 2 things I care about. I'll just look at their YouTube channel.
Yeah.
afterwards. Like you can pick and choose now a lot easier.
Yeah, and it's
than
good. It's smart of these publishers to do it in that way because like I was looking at like insiders coverage for Doom, and just looking at like what Xbox posted about Doom, and they had just the 2-minute sizzle reel, just the clean, gory,
clean
just
trailer,
just
clean showcase.
here is Doom. You know what Doom is. We're showing you some Doom, and then but then you also have the full 20-minute deep dive from the dev team. They talk about philosophy and things they wanted to do and what their goals were, and so it's smart. They're covering their bases, which I think anyone should be and would be doing. So they're doing the right thing.
Yep. Well, that ends our discussion on I mean, a lot of stuff. Covered a lot of gaming stuff there.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we will end the episode by Scott. What's our gaming topic or our sports topic this week?
We did briefly touch on
we touched on the
concussion
thing.
But I like I said earlier, the Bears did the right thing. They hired Ben Johnson. Great. I got to hate watch all the NFC North teams through the playoffs and watch them fall apart, which is very funny. Yeah, I guess the one thing is because I think basketball is your biggest game, and I kind of fell off. I haven't really fallen off. I've fallen off a little bit, but and gotten more into football. But so I was getting caught up on stuff. And I was listening to Bill Simmons talk about his trade value rankings.
Mm-hmm.
Is he right in that the Bulls shouldn't really trade any of their guys away because they're not getting anything good back? Like, what's the point of trading? Like, I keep seeing like, oh, the Bulls should send the Suns Zach LaVine and they can get Bradley Beal back. I don't want Bradley Beal. I don't want Bradley Beal on the Chicago Bulls. But like all these other offers are like, oh, you can have Nikola Vucevic for two second round picks. It's like, that sucks. I don't want that. What did the Bulls do?
I think
you also froze.
Yeah.
It's like as soon as I started talking about the Bulls, you froze.
Yeah. Can you still hear me at least?
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yeah, my webcam's been doing this recently. I don't know why. So everybody gets to see my frozen glory. But for the Bulls specifically, I mean, they're not going anywhere. They have like a couple of young pieces that might turn into anything. Zach LaVine has continued to prove that he's like an actual asset again. So like he has actual value. So you don't just want to trade him away to the Suns for like. So here's the deal: if you can get some of those picks from the Suns, but the issue then becomes you're stuck with Bradley Beal's giant contract.
Right. Yeah. That's what I don't want. It's not that I don't want Bradley Beal the player. It's I don't want Bradley Beal.
Yeah,
Bradley
but if
Beal
that's
for
the only contract you're
going
to have while you're trying to find like young guys for the next couple of years, and he's playing with his college coach, and he's probably going to try a lot harder, and probably be the main guy, like on this team that you're probably just going to be tanking with. Like I can see the value there.
We have found the road to glory through homegrown talent before with Derrick Rose, and now we're doing it with Matas Buzelis.
But the difference is when you had Derrick Rose, when you drafted Derrick Rose, you already had Luol Deng and Joakim Noah.
I mean, the foundation's of a really good team.
And then you drafted him number 1, and then you signed Carlos Boozer a year later, and so you had like a really good starting 4, and then you were just like slotting in pieces like Kyle Korver, and then you eventually got the Jimmy Butler and like like all these things that
Prime Tosh Gibson.
Yeah, like
CJ Watson, Omer Osik. Oh God, it was the bench mob. I remember we called it the bench mob. I think it's Omer Asik because it was Asik and Stacey would call Asik and Destroy, and I had an Asik and Destroy t-shirt, like the most like out of pocket like deep cut sports shirt I ever owned, an Omer Asik t-shirt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't.
But yeah, I guess
I don't know what like if you trade it because there's a lot of people that need a center. So like trading Vooch, but like what are you getting for Vooch? Like that's the bigger question. If you trade LaVine, like if the Lakers
we can get something good back,
then you're getting
and the Lakers are stupid enough to give us too much.
Yeah, so you're at least getting like one of their like unprotected first round picks like in the deep future when like LeBron's definitely going to be retired. So like that's an option. I don't think you're getting
and he's
both.
a UCLA guy, so he'll want to go.
I don't think you're getting both, but that also doesn't help the Lakers with defense, which is where their big issue is.
Right.
So Vooch
Well,
doesn't
they
help
brought in
them.
Dorian Finney-Smith, who's not a defender and also just got hurt.
Yeah, like I don't know who wants to trade for Vooch, but
I don't know who
like
wants. I
because
have no idea who wants
well,
Vooch.
there are people who would
But
want
we
him,
also have
especially off the
Lonzo,
bench.
and I don't want to get rid of Lonzo. Lonzo's finally playing well again.
Yeah, I mean like, but that's the issue. It's like okay, cool, but you're gonna have to sign him again this offseason.
I just like because like I'm not really impressed super with the next draft class, and if people aren't gonna give the Bulls really good offers, and this is kind of what Bill Simmons was talking about. Why not just keep the group together and try and make the play in and go for an upset? I'd rather that than like sell off assets for sell everything for 50 cents on the dollar and then maybe luck into Cooper Flag like that's our plan. That's a terrible plan.
Yeah,
I'd rather
but
just
like,
go. I'd rather just go with what we got and give it a try.
there we go.
Um,
But yeah, no, I don't know, man. The
that's how I feel.
the Bulls are in like this really are in like one of the most unenviable
Yeah.
places just because they don't have like the young guy that is like proven that he's
Mhm.
good to build around yet, and they also have like this talent that is like yes, Vooch has value, but where is the value? Yes, Levine has value, but where are you getting that value with the contract that he has?
Yeah.
This offseason, because I think Vooch is still under contract for 2 years after that signed the deal he signed. Levine has 1 or 2 years after this, so he's still under contract. The only one that's not under contract for another year is Lonzo, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So like you can go into the offseason and then trade Levine and then trade Vooch, and it's not like you're gonna not have a lottery pick because I don't think they're going anywhere above 12. So if like, they're definitely not winning a play-in game.
Yeah.
So if they get a lottery pick this year and then get value for their guys in the offseason, like I don't see the harm in that. The only issue is then you're potentially losing out on like a better pick, I guess. But if like they don't have a high value on this draft compared to the next couple, then why why
It's
blow it
also
up now
yeah.
instead of when you can get more value in the offseason for whatever?
Yeah, that's right. Because like every pick we've brought in, it's always like they always show like a little sign. It's like, oh, they could be like the guy for us, but then like it never fully comes together. Like Kobe White, Io, Pat Williams a few years ago. It's like they're like every
you
time
act like
we
Pat
watch.
Williams isn't on your bench and making how much money?
It's like I think he's making
A lot.
I don't want to look this up.
A lot for no productivity.
I'm gonna be upset just looking at this.
Yeah.
Patrick
But-
Williams resign. Per team policy, terms of the deal will not disclose. Well, come on, NBA.com. All right, I'm going to Basketball Reference.
I was about to say that is definitely not true. They definitely disclosed the deal because it's public knowledge. I could pull up 2K right now and see it.
No, I won't force you to open 2K.
Bro, I've got almost 300 hours in that game.
Stop. It's no.
It's so it's so
what is this
bad.
current deal? Basketball Reference. Why isn't I feel like contract should be at the very top. That's just my opinion. Transactions. Current contract. He's being paid $18 million a year. Okay, that's not terrible. I honestly thought it'd be worse.
Current salary cap, that's not terrible, but he's still doing nothing.
$18 million, but he's also $18 million for each year for the next 4 seasons.
Yeah, they signed him to a 4-year deal. What are his stats, Scott? Tell me his stats for that 18 million. I don't watch the Bulls, so I have no idea.
Oh boy. Let's look at his stats. Okay. This season he has played in 38 games. He started 35 of them. He's played 26.8 minutes. He's averaging 9.3 points, 0.8 steals, 0.6 blocks, 2.2 assists, 4 rebounds.
What's his turnover, Scott?
Let's see.
Because we got to know what his balance is on that TO ratio.
1.3.
So he's averaging less than an assist. Got it. Look, all I'm saying is you got not a lot in the tank in terms of in-house talent right now. So I would just wait. If I were the Bulls, I would just wait and blow it up in the offseason when people have salary cap and you can be like, hey, you don't have to take back things you don't want. Because if you trade a Zach LaVine style contract, you could trade Vooch now and probably not have to take back a lot. You could probably get an expiring that is relatively similar to Vooch's number and then like maybe a player you like plus a first.
I can see.
But,
I can hear your like NBA 2K GM mind from like. I'm sure you've done a few Bulls rebuilds.
yeah, like I don't think I've ever done a rebuild with the modern Bulls because I just don't care. Like, I like Zach LaVine, but
it's too sad.
well, because it's just like because if you want anyone good, like unless you're just waiting for the off season, like there's no fun stuff you can do with the Bulls. Like you can build around LaVine and make like a acceptable team, but once you run into like someone like the Celtics or someone like the Knicks in the playoffs, just like the simulator's not going to favor you over that, no matter how good LaVine is.
Yeah. So the under contract next year. Whew, Zach LaVine at $46 million.
Yeah, is that his last year? Or he's got one more after that.
He's got a player option last year, which the next year.
Yeah, so
which he will be taking.
Last guarantee.
Which he will be taking.
He might not. He might be able to make depending on the team.
Yeah, depends. Yeah,
the salary cap's going
I
up.
can see the Sixers being like, "Hey, you want another 4-year, $160 million?"
There's absolutely no way the Sixers will have that money.
I can see it, but in terms of them being stupid, not in terms of them having the money. Vooch is going to be on at 21.4, Pat at 18. It's next year's going to be Kobe's last year at 12.8.
On that really good deal, which means they're
going
to have to re-up him or trade him.
Yeah.
My guess is they just blow it like they blow it all up. Maybe try and re-sign Kobe to like a decent deal, but there's no path this in the current season that I think that unless someone just blows them away with an offer to like get LaVine with like not a lot of strings attached. Like if there's a multi-team deal in the works, because I know the Suns will need to get another team involved to do a lot of stuff, but if there's like a multi-team deal that's like maybe the Bucks want LaVine, and you can get like if you can get like multiple first round picks and maybe stomach Beal, then I think maybe the deal is fine.
Maybe it would need first round picks.
But it all depends on the picks for the Bulls. But I don't know. There's not a lot on my mind that's like, that makes a lot of sense for the Bulls right now because they're not going to have to take a lot back because that 40 once you get above like 30 million, it's really hard to make an in-season deal no matter what the salaries are at because you're taking back stuff you might not want. And the years might not match up to what you want. Like look at the Trailblazers right now with like Robert Williams and DeAndre Ayton. Yeah. But they also have Klingon. So they have to find minutes for Williams is hurt a lot, but they still have to find minutes and even though Klingon can play the 4, you want to play him at the 5 more. So but you have to find minutes to do that because you can't just cut Ayton and he's on the hook for how much money for another 3 years after.
A lot of money.
So like
of money.
But it's a lot of money in 2019, 2020 money. So like the deal's actually not that bad and it is tradable, but who wants them? How are you going to do that? And is it an asset to them? And what can you get in return? Are you going to have to take money back? Yeah. Like you'd rather just get off the money. You'd rather take back expirings and just get the picks or take back one big expiring and like a young player that you like plus a pick, which like the Lakers can't offer because unless you like one of their guards that they have signed on like a little deal because you're not getting Reeves. I don't think they're going to trade Connect unless the deal's really good. So like
we're gonna get like D'Lo and D'Lo's gone.
D'Lo's gone. We're
gonna get like Max Christie and fucking
Max Christie's like one of the ones. Like if you like Max Christie, then sure. If you want D'Lo, I'm sure the Nets are more than happy.
We're good.
Get off that. You want to trade?
So what are we looking for? Expirings in the Lake? They don't have a lot of expirings.
They don't. If the Lakers were gonna do any deal for LaVine, it'd be like Rui Hachimura. No,
we're gonna
Vanderbilt.
We're gonna get like Gabe Vincent.
Yeah, you're going to get Gabe Vincent, Rui, probably Vanderbilt, and like some filler from your end to make the money work with player number. There's probably going to be a third team involved, and you're going to get like a pick. Whatever. Point is, Bulls aren't going to do anything. I don't think they can do anything substantial, and if they do, it's going to be like through a multi-team deal that's going to pop up at the last second to get LaVine out of there. Or maybe someone will just be like, hey, we need a center. And Vooch is like a good offensive center for like specific matchups. Let's go get him because I think Valanciunas is going to be hot on the market. From the
he's been around a while
from the Wizards because like he's on a decent deal. He's a really good rebounder and a decent offensive player. He's like okay on defense when he's not in the pick and roll. So like against certain matchups, great. against certain matchups, you don't have to play him because you're not paying him a crazy amount of money. So I think people are going to be more on him. There's some rumors about Miles Turner getting traded. I don't know why the Pacers would do that.
Miles Turner's been in trade rumors for a decade.
I know, but like, especially when the Pacers are like decent,
mm-hmm.
like they just made the
Eastern
Conference Finals last year.
I don't know why they would.
Like,
get
sure,
rid of it.
I don't know why they would want to trade him, especially when all their other centers tore their Achilles.
Yeah, they don't. They kind of have to keep him now.
Like James Wiseman playing good for them, cool. Torn Achilles.
Oh,
Hey,
James Wiseman on the Pacers.
Yeah.
I haven't been following. I have fallen off of my NBA.
I can't remember his name. Isaac. His first name's Isaac, but he also tore his Achilles. So I don't think Isaac Jackson. I don't think that's his name. Whatever.
Isaiah
Point is,
Jackson.
Isaiah something. Isaac something. I don't know.
It's on the Pacers.
Yeah. Isaiah Stort's on the Pistons. If that's what you're thinking of. Beef Stew is on the Pistons.
No, yeah, not Beef Stew. Not Beef Stew. Maniac, vocal crazy person.
Yeah, local. He's like third in the league in Texas.
Isaiah Jackson.
That
okay,
yep.
Yeah,
I was right.
I remember. I remember he was on. Who was he? Oh no, he's always been with the Pacers. Okay, I was thinking someone else then.
Guess what? Torn Achilles. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah, 2 torn Achilles for their backup centers. So, yeah. Anyways, Bulls aren't going to do anything. That's the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed us talking at length about all these gaming presentations. I'm sure you'll see us react to more of them as they happen. We're going to get a lot of them within the next couple months. Rumors have it that there's going to be another Nintendo Direct in February, which it'll be February when you listen to this. So maybe we'll react to that one. But tell us in the comments below what your favorite Direct is. If you have topics or questions you want to ask us, the email as always is in the description to reach us. Like, subscribe, whatever, because otherwise Peter won't get food.
We're getting near food time, so he's
yeah, he's ready. Yeah, I was about to say it's about dinner time over here.
The podcast ends, the activity, the nighttime cat activity begins. Yeah,
podcast ends, cat activity begins.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, thanks for listening. Do all the things in the description below. Like us, follow us on your favorite podcast network, whatever, and we'll see you next week.